All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this little tutorial lesson that we are going to be, going through to learn about something called a hash set. Now, a hash set is something that is useful to understand in order to complete the first assignment inside of my Java, tutorial series, whether that be the super course or the quick start course or what have you. It's going to be important to understand what a set is, but most importantly, what a hash set is. A hash set is a type of set. Now, if you don't understand or already know what a set is, let me briefly define that. A set is something that comes from mathematics, and it essentially does not allow duplicates. Duplicates are what a set is all about eliminating. No duplicates. So if I were to have, let's say, some numbers or something like that I want to add to a set, I want to add the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and 5. If I try to add each and every one of these numbers into a set, let me draw a circle to represent my set, the numbers that will actually be added into the set are just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So in the end, we're only going to have a set that is size 5 versus the input, whereas the input was 6 in length, right? Because we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, which is 6 different numbers. So even though we tried to insert 6 numbers into my set, the set will only contain 5 in the end because there is a duplicate here. The second number 4 is a duplicate because it was inserted successfully the first time, but the second time it does not allow that to go in. Now, if we compare and contrast that against something like a list or an array list, to be more precise, array list, if we were to perform the same operation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, there we go, 5. If we were to do an insert into an array list, I should say, then all of these numbers would get inserted. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make that look better, 4 and 5. So then we would end up with a size 6 array list, because the array list doesn't have this built-in method or built-in functionality to remove duplicates, or rather not to remove, but to not even disallow duplicates in the first place. Array lists don't have that built-in functionality, so they allow you to insert duplicates. Sets do not. That is really the only important difference that you need to understand between something like a list and a set. Now, let me talk a little bit more about what this hash set, the word hash, what does that mean as it pertains to a set? All right, so the term hash set has meaning. If you don't already know what the term hash means, I'm going to try my best to define this as simply and as quickly as possible. I'm not going to get into what a hash is in depth because that is a not very long, but that's definitely a whole nother video in and of itself. Basically, what the word hash means is it's referring to something called a hashing algorithm. Okay, so it's a set of well, you get the idea. Algorithm. It's a set of rules that are put in place to achieve a certain goal. So the goal here is we take something like the value. So when you have a set, you're storing a value into the set. Okay, so in this case, or in the previous case, the values that we were storing in the set were numbers. Now, of course, with respect to sets in Java, you can put whatever you want into a set, I think, as long as it's not a primitive value. You can put in, integers, strings, objects, anything your little heart would desire, you can put into a set, so long as, anyway, more or less anything, so long as you abide by a few rules, which again I won't get into right now. But let's just stick with the simple, the object wrappers for primitive types. So by that I mean integer and long, double, those kinds of things. Let's use those as examples for my hashing algorithm. Let's keep it really simple and just use integers. So our value in this case, the value that we want to store, or rather values, let's say are numbers, 1, 2, and 2. Let's try to just make it really simple. So we want to store these 3 values into the set. So what is the word hash? What does a hashing algorithm do? Well, what happens is when you try to store one of the values into the set, or more specifically the hash set, it passes through the hashing algorithm. Let's call this the hashing algorithm, because I don't want to type it all out again. So you try to insert the number 1 into a hash set. It goes through the hashing algorithm and comes out the other end with what can sort of be conceived as an index. So basically what happens here is it goes through this sort of magical cloud of something that's happening, and it outputs an index based on the value. So in this case, the index that it's going to spit out, we don't really know, because I don't know what the hashing algorithm is in this case, because I just sort of made it up. But you can have different hashing algorithms and whatnot. But this is, you don't have to concern yourself with a hashing algorithm that's used inside of Java with a hash set, because it does that all under the covers for you. So you pass it in. Number 1, it comes out, let's say, with index 5 or something like that. Then you pass in the number 2, and it will come out with, index 3 or something along those lines. But now, when you insert the number 2 again, what happens is, because this value is the same as the previous one, it'll come out with the exact same index. So you pass number 2, and it'll come out with index 3 again. But we already know that the value of 3, or the index 3, already has something inside of it. So this is how the hash set knows that there's a duplicate. It says, nope, we've already put something in this particular index position, so we will reject it, and we won't allow the second number 2 to go into our hash set. Okay, so this is getting pretty technical, but I just wanted you to understand sort of what, in general, a hashing algorithm does. It takes a value, it does some magic, and then it outputs essentially a position or an index in which to store that particular value. Okay, that is the most simple way, the simplistic way that I can describe a hashing algorithm to you without getting into gory details. So, fair enough. So now that you sort of understand what the concept of a hashing algorithm is, let me explain how that, what impact that has on the set versus something like a list, okay, an array list. So what's the main difference, other than what I've already described, between a hash set and an array list that you need to be aware of? So one of the main differences between an array list, let me just type out array list. That's just a terrible way to write it out. Let me try to make it a little bit more legible here. Array list versus hash set. So an array list is backed by an index, okay? And then it's more or less in order, right? So what that means is, as you insert numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, when you do add operations, right? All of these are add operations. Array dot add, and then whatever number it is that you want to add, or whatever anything it is that you want to add, you invoke it via array.add, assuming that the word array is the variable that I've used to declare an array list. In any case, whatever. This is just a variable name. This could have been anything. This could have been, Bob, if I really want it to be anything. But anyway, so the .add is the most important part. When I add these numbers into the array, they're going to go in order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 are going to go in based on an index. So arrays are 0-based indexes. So this is going to be at index 0. This is going to be at index 1. This is going to be at index 2. Oops. And this is going to be at index 3. Okay? 0, 1, 2, 3 represents values 1, 2, 3, 4. Versus hash set. Hash set is not in order. And it's not, believe it or not, backed by an index. So it's neither index-based, nor is it in order. Okay, so that's the main difference between an array list and a hash set, besides the fact that hash sets do not allow duplicates. So if we stored the same numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and perform the same add operations, hash set.add 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever the variable name I use, like let's say, my set.add, and I added 1, 2, 3, 4, well, the output, if I tried to go through that and output what's in there, it's not necessarily going to be in order. It could come out like this. It could come out 3, 1, 4, 2 is how it outputs. So don't get confused if you output stuff from a hash set and see that it's not in order. The reason why it's not in order is because of that hashing algorithm that I was talking about. Okay, although the hash set itself is not backed by an index, the mechanism by which the values are stored inside of the hash set does have an index. Okay, but you just can't use it. It's under the covers. They don't allow you to use it. It's quite annoying, but there's a reason behind why you're not allowed to use it. So again, remember, if we try to add the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 with a hash set, all of these go into, remember, the hashing algorithm, the hashing algorithm. So when I put in the number 1, it could spit out on the other side as in position 2. Or I should say, yeah, we'll say position 2 instead of index, because index would have to be 0 based, and I already wrote the number 2, so let's call it position 2. And then 2 goes in, and it comes out as position 4. And then 3 goes in, and it comes out as position 1. And 4 goes in, and it comes out as position 3. Okay, so how do I get these numbers? Well, I'm just basing it off of this. 1 here is in position 2. That's why 1 goes in, it's in position 2. And then 2 goes in, and it's in position 4. So that's why 2 came out as 4, and so on and so forth. So, again, although I'm sort of talking about indexes / positions here, you're not allowed to use them inside of a hash set just because that's the way it works. All you can do with a hash set is iterate over it. Okay, so you can do like a for each loop to iterate over the hash set to output the values inside of it. So it will go through and it will figure out how or what values are inside of the hash set and output them in any order that it desires based on the hashing algorithm that it used to put those values into the data structure in the first place. All right. So now, having said that, hopefully I haven't confused the heck out of you. Let me switch over to the code view and we can have a look at this stuff in action. Okay, so now here we are in the editing environment, and I've created a HashSet example class file, and I have the public static void main executable type method that I've created inside of this. So now let's just create an example of a hash set. So set is what we're creating. We use the angled brackets to use generics that allows us to tell Java what it is that we're storing inside of the set. We'll name it mySet. And we'll create a new hash set with an integer inside of it. And then we have to make sure to import it because it comes from Java util, which is not by default included in our code base here, our workspace, I should say. Okay, so now what we can do is we can actually add stuff to the set. So if we say myset.add, we can add different values. So we'll just add integers like we were doing before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll put 10 in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now instead of having a 10 at the end, I'm just going to add another number like 2. So I'm going to have a duplicate in there. Okay. So although I'm adding 10 numbers, only 9 should go into the set because sets don't allow duplicates. So now how can we inspect what it is that is inside of our set? Well, you might, with ArrayList, you say let's say I had an ArrayList, you'd say my ArrayList dot get, right? There'd be a get method, but in here you don't have a get method. You have a get class, but that's not going to allow you to get what it is that's inside of the hash set. And the reason why we don't have a .get is because with ArrayList, you'd put something like get 0, which allows you to get the index of 0. So you get the element that's stored in the ArrayList at index 0. But remember, a set doesn't have an index that we can play with. Sure, there sort of is one in the back end with this whole hashing algorithm stuff, but like I said, it's not exposed publicly to you. You're not allowed to use it. So you can't get an element based on an index. The only way to get the elements from the hash set is to iterate through it. So as you can see here, you can say myset.iterator, right? So you can iterate over it. Now the easiest way to iterate in my experience is always to do a for each loop. So I'll do a for each loop. I'm going to say for integer, an int in my set. Okay, so the for each loop, there we go, that will iterate through my set, and for each value that it finds in my set, it will assign it to the an int. I guess that's a bad variable name. An int variable, and then allow me to iterate through each one. So now I can take an int and I can just sort of, output it to the console, do a system.out.println, and I'll output it to the console. Okay, so this allows me to see what it is that's inside of my set. So now let me run this code, run as Java application, and in the bottom here, I'll make this bigger, you'll see that it comes out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you can see that there is no duplicate, right? Because we added the number 2 in there twice, and as you can see, it did not display 2 instances of the number 2. So it got rid of that duplicate, which is great. Now, as you can see, it's in order. I believe that was a fluke that it came out in order. That normally wouldn't happen. If I were to do something like, the number 11, and then 20, and then 3, and then 45, 85, 6, 17, 28, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I added them in this order. I would expect that it won't output them in this order, because that's how a hash set just works. So when I run this again, okay, there we go, perfect. Now you see the first number I entered was the number 11, but the number 11 doesn't appear until the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th number. And then the second number I entered was 20. 20 is the 4th number in there now. 3 is the 3rd, 3 is the 2nd. 45 is the 4th, 45 is the last. So you see, it was just a fluke that with the hashing algorithm that was used, sequential numbers were stored sequentially as well. That kind of maybe gives us a hint as to what sort of hashing algorithm that they're using in the back end here. In any case, this is the point I wanted to prove to you. When you do this, the numbers aren't necessarily in order, okay? And that's especially true when you're doing something like storing strings inside of a hash set. Strings are definitely not great in terms of being ordered. So let's add a string like 1, and then, 2, and then let's say 3 and 4. Actually, let's say 3 and 3, because there's one more aspect of this, of these sets, hash sets, that I want to, a point that I want to get across. And let's call this a string. Just changing everything over so that it takes strings now as opposed to integers. So now we have a string, or strings that are being stored in here. So let me run this. Hopefully I'll get my point across that it's not, oh god, it's in the right order. 1, 2, 3. Again, total fluke, ladies and gentlemen. What if I say 3, 4, 5, 5? What if I say it that way? There we go, 4, 3, 5. Just to show you that I'm getting really lucky here with these. So again, it's not in order. That is what we expected to see. We put 3, 4, 5 in first, but it didn't come out 3, 4, 5. It came out 4, 3, 5 because again, it uses a hashing algorithm to store everything. So it's not in order. Now, one last thing I wanted to show you. The add method, when I hover over it, it returns a Boolean, which is kind of strange. When I add something into the set, why is it returning true or false? When we scroll down a bit, we see that it returns true if this set did not already contain the specified element. So it will return true, essentially, if it was able to insert whatever it is that you wanted to insert successfully. But it will return false if it could not add what it is that you wanted to add because there's a duplicate. This is something that could be very useful to you during your assignment, the first assignment here. So again, if I were to say, let me do a system out on each of these, because again, they return a Boolean value. So I can do a system out on each of these add operations, and when I do the system out, it's going to perform the add operation, right? So it's going to add the number 3 into the set, and then it's going to return a Boolean, a true or false Boolean, explaining whether or not it was able to add the value that we were trying to add in the first place. So it's going to return a value of true, and then I'm just going to output that value. That's what's going on here. So when I run this, what I expect to see is I expect to say true, it was able to insert 3, true, it was able to insert 4, true, it was able to insert 5, false, it was not able to insert 5, because 5 already exists inside of the hash set, right? It does not allow duplicates, so we can't insert it twice. Therefore, because this one tried to insert it and failed to insert it because there was a duplicate, it should output false. So I should see true, 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 false when I run this main method. Let's see what happens. Run as Java application. True, 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 false. There we go. So that's the first set of output from the system outs. Fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted to see. And then it does this output for the system outs, and that's 435 as expected. So there we go. That is essentially in a as quick as a nutshell as I could make it. That is how the hash sets work. Like I said, excellent for getting rid of duplicates and will probably be very useful to you in your upcoming assignment. So enjoy that. All the best. As always, happy learning.